up, YouTube? Today we are going to talk comic books. Most importantly, the recent trailer for Logan, which is going to be the third Wolverine film. Now, I actually am a huge fan of Wolverine. I always have been. Since I was a little kid, I grew up watching the 90s television series of the X-Men, which is my favorite run of the X-Men. For me, it's personally the most recognizable run of the X-Men, and it's the one that's been my favorite basically most of my life. Actually, when people were like, you know, what do you want to be when you grow up? I would always say Wolverine. Because I had assumed, I guess, that when I, get older, that Wolverine would be older and then he'd have to pass the mantle on to someone else who is waiting to be Wolverine. Which is ironic because we have stories like Old Man Logan. If you don't know what Old Man Logan is, or Wolverine Old Man Logan, whatever you want to call it, it is a, spin-off series about Wolverine, and certain events have happened in the Marvel Universe. I won't spoil it too much because I want you guys to read it. It's very good. It's available in trade paperback if you guys want to go get that. But I've read it multiple times. It's easily my favorite Marvel story of all time. One of the things I liked about it is it keeps all of the Marvel Universe there, but it presents it to you in a different light. Old Man Logan, just to sum it up, is sort of like Wolverine. He's old, right? In case you couldn't tell. A bunch of events have happened. Again, it's really difficult to try and describe this without giving away spoilers. But it's sort of like this weird Mad Max, Western sort of world where all of the evil villains basically took over the world, and they all have these different districts that they control and stuff like that. And Wolverine has sort of sworn off, or Logan rather, has sort of sworn off being Wolverine, and you don't really know why. Which of course it's revealed later in the book why, which is like a huge oh my gosh plot twist, and it's totally shocking, it's surprising, it's amazing. You have to read it. But I saw the trailer, and if you haven't seen the trailer, let's go ahead and watch that right now.
Logan, what did you do?
Charles, the world is not the same as it was. Mutants. They're gone now.
I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain, the only thing that's real.
What is she?
Beneath the stain
She's like you.
Of time,
Very much like you.
the feelings disappear.
She needs our help.
You are
Someone will come along.
someone else.
Someone has come along.
I am still right here, and you could have it all. My empire of dirt, I will let you down. I will make you hurt. I will keep myself. I would find a way.
Logan, you still have time.
So right off the bat, the first impression that I got was it starts with the Johnny Cash cover of the song Hurt, which is cool. It's really cool. It's got the acoustic guitar. It's got this very nitty gritty feel, of course, being Johnny Cash. A lot of people say that have seen this trailer, I've seen people say, well, you can't go wrong with Johnny Cash. Well, for me, I really like the choice of music. However, there's multiple levels working here to where Johnny Cash's cover of the song Hurt is that it's a cover. It's his version of something, of a song that we all know, and it's made famous by someone we all know. And I feel like that's what they're doing with this sort of rendition of Old Man Logan. And I say that in quotes because as the trailer goes on, we start to sort of find out that it's not really going to be the old man Logan that we all know and love, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's definitely not going to be the old man Logan that we all know and love. Mostly because a lot of the Marvel properties that are used in Old Man Logan are not, I believe, Fox properties. So stuff like, well, I'm not going to tell you. You're just going to have to take my word for it. But for example, Hawkeye, the Hulk, and a bunch of other Marvel characters are in this that they wouldn't be able to get the movie rights to put in Old Man Logan. And some of them, actually a lot of them, are really pivotal to the story of Old Man Logan. And so it's very easy to see how this is not going to be the Old Man Logan that we know, and mostly because of these pivotal characters and these pivotal plot points that you would be unable to use without having access to these the properties or the intellectual property of those characters, I guess. Another thing that I'd like to point out is I haven't been a huge fan of the Bryan Singer X-Men movies. I hate them. I think they're really, really bad. My favorite character of them is Hugh Jackman's version of Wolverine, although I think it definitely could have been done differently. I definitely think it could have been done way, way better. I think those movies are rushed, and I think they're really campy and pandering. I think at the time it was really, really amazing to see those sort of comic book movies come to life in sort of a modern with sort of a modern take on them. But I think nowadays people are more mature in their tastes in movie viewing, such as stuff like the recent Avengers film. Even though they're in costumes and stuff like that, and there's some witty comedy, it's not what I'll call like Painted Blade, where you have the movie Blade, which also is a Marvel property, where everyone is sort of like dressed like they're in the Matrix, all this black leather. Actually, in Deadpool, they make a joke about it, which is almost sort of like an homage to those early 2000s comic book movies where they try to do a realistic take on everything, and they have people in like these black leather costumes. I think if a superhero has a costume, you should put them in that costume. Don't apologize for it. I feel like that's their identity. It's their costume. You couldn't imagine Superman wearing black leather, with some like weird visor, sunglasses and stuff like that. That wouldn't be Superman. Now, even though Zack Snyder has done an okay job reimagining Superman's costume and reimagining the Superman and Batman universe, it's still, to me, is a little too hyper realistic, if you will, and it should be more fun. Comic books are about fun. Like any sort of fiction, it's meant to be fun. It doesn't have to be real, and that's where the fun comes into it. It doesn't have to be super realistic. You don't have to have people walking around in black leather outfits and everything like that. But anyway, that's my little rant. So this, from what I can tell, is very heavily influenced, I would say, by Old Man Logan, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's based off of Old Man Logan. The Western themes are there. The sort of desolate Mad Max feel is definitely there. It's definitely more gruff. I wouldn't say gritty, because that implies that it's dark. It's not dark. Old Man Logan isn't dark. The story is dark in tone, but it's very rich. There's a lot of very vibrant colors. It's a very dusty sort of Red Dead Redemption, Mad Max, sort of Book of Eli type thing, without being dark or without all being sepia tone or without all being one color. It's very bright and vibrant, and I'd like to see this, at least from what we've seen in the trailer, how it's got a griminess to it. It's not, Days of Future Past, where, there's all these young kids walking around and you're supposed to believe that the fate of the world is in their hands. It's real without being hyper realistic and everyone in black leather. So that was good. I will say that I felt a tinge of the Ghostbusters trailer, and I know that you guys might freak out on me for saying that. And I'm not saying that it's that bad, that it's as bad as the Ghostbusters trailer. I wasn't a huge fan of Ghostbusters to begin with, but take, for example, the Super Mario Brothers movie. what they did in that movie was they used the intellectual property of the name of Super Mario Brothers. They used Mario and Luigi. They used King Koopa. They didn't say Bowser. Daisy is there instead of Peach. Yoshi is there. There are Goombas, but they're not the Goombas we know. And there's even a Bob-omb in it. But it wasn't really the Mario that we were accustomed to. It had the name, and that's pretty much it. The plot didn't have anything to do with Mario. In fact, people often say that movie was a huge disaster. You can look up online all these interviews with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo on how they thought the movie was absolutely terrible. It was a disaster and they hated working on it. So I feel like the X-Men movies in general have sort of that Super Mario effect on what they've done with their movies in the universe that they've created, where they've used the name of X-Men, but they haven't used the X-Men stories apart from, again, the name. For example, Days of Future Past. Again, I'm not saying it's completely separated from the story, because Days of Future Past was one of the better X-Men movies. It was one of the better plots and stayed truer to the comic book version of Days of Future Past than what they tried to do with the Phoenix Saga and Juggernaut being some sort of weird leathery Viking man instead of being empowered by the Crimson Gem of Sidorak, and he had a ruby helmet. You know what I mean? So there's that. Having all that being said, I feel like this is Old Man Logan in name and in inspiration only. But that's kind of like saying, I think I might have actually been Dane Cook that was saying that Mighty Joe Young, was loosely based on King Kong, or you guys are just going to like roast me in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure it was Dane Cook that said something in a stand-up about, movies that are loosely based on true events or whatever. And this is kind of the case for me. I see the tone of the very western southwesty feel. I see that Logan is older. They at no point say Old Man Logan, but they do call the movie Logan instead of Wolverine 3 or whatever, and we'll get into that as we start to break down. I got some screenshots from the trailer that I really want to take a look at. I didn't go super duper in depth, but there is stuff that I do want to take a look at and discuss. But on the whole, I was super excited when I saw this trailer, and I still am super excited. It's kind of meh level of excitement. I'd say probably a solid 5 out of 10, 5.5 out of 10. Reason being because of the X-Men universe now as it is, because of the previous Wolverine movies. The first one was an absolute joke. What they decided to do with Deadpool in the first one, the stupid Phoenix thing, X-Men Last Stand. The X-Men movies for me have just been a joke, like an absolute joke, right up there with DC's Catwoman, to be perfectly honest. And Disney Marvel has absolutely been killing it. So when I see trailers for Fox Marvel properties, I can only be so excited, because I'm assuming, of course, in my personal experience in the past, since they've screwed up the X-Men, sort of franchise, that the next movie that they're going to produce is also, they're going to screw it up. But again, these are just my opinions. So the first thing that I want to take a look at is I don't know if you guys saw it in the trailer, but the funeral. So in Old Man Logan, I'm not going to spoil anything, but treat Old Man Logan as there's only about 50 or so mutants or empowered people, whatever you want to call them, metahumans, left around in the world, minus, the bad guys and random other influences. But there's a very small number of powered people, and this was good. I thought this was very good that they did a call to Old Man Logan, saying that, Logan is one of the remaining mutants left. I thought this was a good take on it. What I didn't appreciate is this scene at the funeral. Now, it does give us some insight into his character as sort of a grizzled, older, sort of a hardened a more hardened, more mature adult version of Wolverine or Logan that we've seen in the movies. With the drinking at the funeral thing, it's dark, it's good. I'm glad that they're going there. However, I wouldn't have shown it. Maybe just a callback to whatever happened. You know, maybe a flashback in the movie or even in the trailer. But I wouldn't have shown the funeral with the people standing there and him standing there. It's a little too on the nose. It's a little too over dramatic for me. Now, again, you know, I'm sure that's rich since we're talking about a comic book movie. But in reality, I wouldn't have done something so on the nose as, you know, they're all gone and then he's sitting there at the funeral drinking. We get it. You can explain that in the trailer or in the movie. Keep us in some sort of suspense. Don't show the actual funeral with the people there with the umbrellas and it's raining and everything like that. A little too on the nose. This shot of old Logan is great. I think it's great. I think he pulls it off. I think we've seen Hugh Jackman as Wolverine enough to automatically assume that he is Wolverine. He's the only Wolverine, even though I personally believe that those movies are terrible, terrible movies. He's a good Wolverine. He's a great actor. He actually wasn't even their first choice. And he basically, you know, made his career off of being Wolverine, and he is Wolverine. And so seeing this old, grizzled, aged Logan, it's good. It makes me excited to see that they were committed to making him aged and weathered. It really looks like he's seen some stuff. There is a person in the trailer that I don't really know who this is, but without spoiling too much, in Old Man Logan the comic, as I was saying before, you can't really do Hawkeye because Disney Marvel owns the rights to Hawkeye, but Hawkeye is sort of his companion along the story of Old Man Logan, and so I feel like it's a callback to that with this character in particular, with the goggles and the little, you know, poncho and the you know, desert of the West in the background. I think it was a nice homage to that, and I'm glad that they did it. One thing I'm not excited about is who it actually is, because I know it can't be Hawkeye. And Hawkeye was one of the main, you know, co-stars, if you will, of Old Man Logan. This shot of him with the scars, I'm really happy about, but at the same time, it implies to me that he would have had to have been in a battle, and I'll talk about that later if I can remember. It implies that he would have had to have been in a battle, and I doubt that they're gonna go there. Those of you who have read Old Man Logan, you know what I'm hinting at. It's the huge like shocking thing about this story and why he's sworn off being Wolverine. I doubt they're gonna go there. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. Until you've read it, you won't fully understand. Basically, what I'm saying is these scars to me indicate a callback to something that's in the comic that they could never do in the movie, and so that's why I'm not excited about it, because it only means in my mind that they're gonna have to substitute it with something else, and substituting it with anything else would be way less. It'd be setting the bar way lower than what it was in the comic. And also, I don't think to the level of the severity of the way the comic was, they can't do that in the movies. And so I feel like if you can't do what's in the comics, you probably shouldn't reference it, because it's like, if you're going to reference it, you obviously have seen the source material and you know of it, so why not just do that? But instead you're just going to reference it, so that kind of agitates me. But I don't make movies, right? So kudos to them for at least, you know, giving a shout out to the Old Man Logan comic. One thing I wanted to point out is the scene with the little trucks. It says, if you can, you know, read there on the windshield, it says Policia Federal. Now, I'm assuming this might be in New Mexico, if not actually in Mexico, but I'm super duper glad about this setting. Not really excited about the modern technology, the modern soldiers and everything like that. I would have loved to see them take this all the way Mad Max, all the way like, you know, dystopian future sort of Book of Eli, Mad Max type thing. I would have loved to see them commit to that. And they're sort of half-heartedly doing that, but, you know, what can you do? It's the movies, and they can't do 100% Old Man Logan because people would probably throw up and freak out, to be perfectly honest. So there's that little nugget, Policia Federal, whatever that means. Here we see some sort of imposing shot on this guy with the robot arm, whom I'm assuming is going to be some sort of side villain, because I'm believing that the main villain is going to be Caliban. Now, I don't know a whole lot about Caliban. I know. I'm supposed to be this comic book nerd, and I don't know who Caliban is. But, yeah, I'm assuming this is going to be one of, like, the side villains. So there's that. Robot arm, meh. It's cool. And I like to see that mesh of Western, sort of old-fashioned, grimy, gritty feel mixed with the robotic arm, because actually Ultron and several other Ultron robots are in Old Man Logan. There is an aspect of technology that's there, but it's a lot like Fallout, where you have this very old, apocalyptic setting, and then there's this like super duper advanced technology, and that contrast sort of makes the world. I don't know if I would have gone so far as to have the guys in black, the tactical outfitted guys with the Policia Federal and the trucks, but the robot arm I can live with. Here we see a shot of Professor Xavier, who they've aged, which I always thought it was impossible to make Patrick Stewart look aged. But I don't know where this is. A lot of people have speculated that this might be like the shell of Cerebro, but we know that's not the case because this is set in some sort of New Mexico, like southern United States deserty area, so it wouldn't be where the Xavier Mansion is. But it's interesting to see that Patrick Stewart, number one, is on board with another Wolverine movie, and that he is going to play a pivotal role in this. And I'm imagining that they would substitute Hawkeye with Professor Xavier, which would be okay with me. Although the power levels vary greatly between Professor Xavier and Hawkeye. All the shenanigans that they got into Hawkeye and Logan in Old Man Logan would have been very, very different if it would have been Logan and Professor X. It would have been, a non-issue, which is what made Old Man Logan so good, is that you have these very moderately powered guys dealing with all these extraordinary circumstances, and you don't have access to Omega level mutants like Professor Xavier. They're there in the comic, but they're just not as readily available as they used to be. Here we get a shot of X-23, which, if you guys don't know, X-23, or I'm assuming is X-23, they might not go all the way there, but basically X-23 is Wolverine. She's a clone of Wolverine. They basically didn't have everything that they needed to completely clone Wolverine. So they used DNA from some other random chick. I can't remember the story 100%, but basically she's an imperfect clone of Wolverine. Imperfect meaning they meant it to be Wolverine, but it ended up just being a female version. So imagine, if you will, someone who is exactly Wolverine, almost like his twin. Just a female. So basically like Wolverine twin. Obviously she's younger. She's going to be a little girl in this one, which I'm kind of happy for, because the story of X-23 is she was trained to be an assassin. That's all she knows, like literally all she knows. And so she's sort of like this feral, like uncontrollable little rage goblin, right? And Wolverine sort of takes her under his wing and teaches her what it means to be powered and what that responsibility means. And there's nobody better to do that, obviously, than Logan, because for some very long time he himself was feral. So I'm glad that they're doing that. Overall, I'm really excited with the trailer, but again, also not excited, if that makes any sense. You have a lot of things that are in Old Man Logan that are absolutely amazing. But there are properties that Disney Marvel owns that Fox Marvel could never use. Properties like Captain America, Iron Man, Giant Man, or Ant-Man, whatever you want to call him, Hulk, Hawkeye, Ultron. And so you don't have access to all of as many plot points as you do in the comic as you would in the film, if that makes any sense. So I'm interested to see what they're going to do in lieu of all of those things that they obviously can't do that are from the comic. It'd be very interesting to see Deadpool in this movie. I would not be surprised. I'd be actually super duper excited and thrilled if they put Deadpool in this movie. I would not be surprised. It'd be very in keeping with the theme of Old Man Logan. But yeah, I mean, you can't do what they did you just can't do it. You can't do what they did in the comics. I am actually glad that it is going to be rated R, which I'm very excited about because Old Man Logan is very, very rated R. The comic is very, very rated R. In the movie, I'm glad that they're making it rated R, not because I want to see blood and guts, but because Deadpool was rated R. And it doesn't necessarily mean that Deadpool was a good movie because it was rated R, but because it was rated R, they were allowed to do so much more with the character of Deadpool and make him so much closer to his character in the comics because the movie was rated R. Whereas Old Man Logan, it's going to be rated R, but without the elements that come along with the characters that Disney Marvel owns, that tie into those plot points. It's still going to be rated R, but it's still going to be limited because of the pool of characters that you have to pull from. So I'm imagining that they're going to, make up bad guys, air quotes, make up meaning that they're going to do some super deep cut from some random, B or C list villain. A lot of people are saying Mr. Sinister is going to tie into this because he's very famous, infamous in the comics for cloning and wanting to make the perfect clone. In the Age of Apocalypse end credit scene, spoiler alert, it's actually the Essex Corporation. Nathaniel Essex, I believe is his name, is Mr. Sinister, and you have the little thing of Weapon X DNA. So they've teased that, and obviously here, standing before us is X-23, so that's very good. But in terms of other villains, we might have Caliban, we might have the robot arm guy, but other than that, I can't see them doing super big villains other than stuff that they've already done in the X-Men universe, which, again, in my opinion, has not been that great. There are several other little things in the trailer that I want to talk about. There's a point in the trailer where something or someone is attacking him, and you see him holding up his claws, and there are what look like claws coming down at him. Now, I personally think that's Lady Deathstrike. Now, I think it'd be a good idea to make her a villain in this movie. I think they haven't built it up enough because Lady Deathstrike is very integral to the character of Wolverine and Logan in the comics. I feel like if they're going to introduce her in this movie, I think it would be too little too late, but I'd still like to see how they pull that off. And mostly I'm saying this because the little stabby things look like what I would imagine the movie version of her fingers, her little stabby fingers. Another villain they could do is Silver Samurai, which is a very common Wolverine villain, but not a very commonly known Marvel villain to people who are not super into the comics. And yeah, I mean, the ultimate end villain could also be Deadpool. Who knows? But yeah, Old Man Logan on the whole is some bizarre, like apocalyptic, crazy Western that it's very, very bloody. It's very, very shocking. It's very exciting. There's a lot of action, and there's a ton of Marvel characters, like you've never seen them before. I mean, like you've never seen them before in this comic. So it's very good. I definitely recommend checking it out. You should definitely try it. It's very good. Definitely top 3 Marvel stories of all time, if not the top Marvel story of all time. Anyway, what did you think of the trailer? Let me know down in the comments below. If you like this video, make sure to leave it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to get updates on all of my newest content drops. You guys have been great. I have been the Danger Moss, and I will see you next time.